Hello everyone, my name is Randy Teehee and this is my presentation for lab number 1. This lab is being done for experimental psychology and the course number is 3574. Today's date is September 21st, 2025. It is also the due date for this presentation. This is the title page for my research question number 1. Well, altogether there will be 3, so here's the title page for the first. This is my topic of interest in population for research question number 1. For the first research question, my topic of interest is going to be digital detox and well-being. I found this using Annex 1 under the Applied Psychology in the Digital Era. As you can tell, my target population of this research question will be parents who use social media, play games, and communicate heavily on their phones. I added a few pictures just to give you an idea of how it looks when parents are always on their phone and their children are right beside them. Sometimes it's not that big of a deal, but other days we don't really notice how often we're on our phone and we're missing out on these little opportunities with our children. This is slide number 4. It is covering the theory and model that would be used to research question number 1. For this first question, I chose self-determination theory. This is the psychological theory that states that individuals need 3 basic psychological needs to be met in order to be highly motivated. But motivation in this theory is not an all or nothing. It is a continuous thing, and it ranges from A motivation, which is very low, needing help, getting motivated, to intrinsic motivation, and that's when you just feel motivated internally to get things done. In order to reach intrinsic motivation, the 3 basic psychological needs that would need to be fulfilled are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Autonomy is the feeling of being in control of your own actions. Like if you have too much digital use, you don't really feel like you're in control. Like you feel like you have to be on your phone, or you just automatically go there. And it creates compulsive and habitual behavior. Competence is feeling effective and capable. So too much digital use can interfere with our parenting capabilities as well as productivity in our daily routine. There's lots of other things that come with being a parent, like doing laundry, doing the dishes, and getting things ready for the games the next day. So when we're on our phones too much, we're missing out on these chances to be more productive with our time. And then relatedness is feeling connected to those around us. When we're on our phones too much, we can replace meaningful or intimate time and that we could be having in-person communication with just having surface level interaction with people online, when we're really missing out on great opportunities with our children. This is slide number 5, and this is my research question number 1, and it says, how will a 24-hour digital detox influence the psychological need for autonomy, competence, and relatedness among parents as predicted by the self-determination theory? So as I read before, and it would be targeted to help our autonomy, competence, and relatedness. We would want to feel more in control of our own actions and not so like having these habits of just reaching for our phone, automatically reaching for our phone even though we're busy, just reaching to check for something, check a status, check for any communication that might be going on our phone that's outside of our home and with our children. And the competence, it would hopefully boost feeling more capable and having more productivity to do our daily routines, and capable to have interactions with our children, play more games, just do different things And then the relatedness also is like feeling connected. We would hope that putting down the phone for 24 hours, you would feel more connected and present with those who are around you. This is the title page for research question number 2. This is slide number 7, and it covers the topic of interest in population for research question number 2. And my second topic of interest is going to be mindfulness interventions for anxiety reduction. I found that on Annex 1 underneath health and well-being psychology. And then my target population would be school-age children between the ages of 8 and 10 years old, because as much as we don't really pay attention, or a lot of children that we're not even aware of are anxious at just 8 and 10 years old. It's such a small age, but it really does happen more than we're aware of. I work in a school and I see it quite often. I added a little chart just to give an idea of the increase in depression and anxiety in children. It says, here's a visual chart showing the rise in anxiety and depression among Oklahoma children alone from year 2016 to 2020. It says the 2020 kids count report found that 12.5% increase, which is about 1 in 8 children, reflect that they have depression or anxiety. Here is slide number 8, and this is the theory and model used for question number 2. The theory that I would use to study this question is the transactional model of stress and coping. It is theorized that stress is a dynamic process that arises from individuals' interactions with their environment, how the individual examines the event, and what coping resources they possess, and how they utilize those resources. So the main thing to remember with this theory is that it's not always the event that's stressful, it's how the individual views that stressor. If it could be the same exact situation for 2 different children, and then with one, they may have the coping mechanisms, and then the other may not. So the other, who doesn't have those coping mechanisms, could view this as extremely an extremely large stressor that they may not be able to overcome as easily as the first child. Here is slide number 9, and this is the research question for number 2. And the research question would be, does participation in a mindfulness intervention predict a greater reduction in self-reported daily stressors compared to a control group of school-age children ages 8 to 10? So it would be tested that if we would have one group who had no mindfulness intervention, and then we would have another group who did have that mindfulness intervention, and we would see if there's been a difference in the way those children are able to overcome stressors, the daily stressors of maybe a big test or leaving their parents, or just anything that a child may be anxious about, and then just giving them those resources to hopefully be able to cope with them and overcome them in a much easier manner. Here is the title page for research question number 3. The topic of interest in the population for research question number 3, it says, my topic of interest is, for the third research question, is group identity in online communities. This topic is found on Annex 1 under social psychology. The population that I would be researching is that the online parenting groups that are pro-vaccines and anti-vaccines. I don't know if anybody's seen it. Maybe it's just because I have children and it just floods my newsfeed, but there's always constantly parents making posts about vaccinate your children, and then the other parents that are anti-vaccination, and if one side comments on the other with a disagreement, they just totally shut down. They don't want them to comment on there. They can tell them they can keep scrolling. So my question is, sorry, I'm not going to say my question yet. So those were those were the population that I was trying to target to see if being in an online group really influences their behavior even more. The theory and model for question number 3 that I would use to study is the social identity theory. In this theory, it is believed that people develop a large portion of their self-concept from their membership in those groups, and that sometimes develops an us versus them perspective, and it can create a really hard way to get through and see the other side. Here is research question number 3. It says, to what extent does exposure to supportive feedback, for example, likes and comments, in pro and anti-vaccine online communities influence the parents' adherence to their group's vaccination stance? So, when you have a strong identity in an online group community, I would imagine that posting online, and if you get a bunch of likes or hearts and positive feedback, that it would just enhance that idea even more. But I was also wondering, like, if when people do post a disagreement or other information, knowledgeable information from either party, would the individual ever take that into consideration to changing their stance on it, or does it ever go through to does it actually reach the audience like it's intended, or do they just totally shut it down? So that was my question, or that was the main thing that I would want to study in that question, is just if once you have an online identity and you get more on top of that, like, so I'm sorry, I'm rambling on, but if I have a stance on, like, if, just for an example, if I am anti-vaccine and I have a big following of being anti-vaccinated, then I'm sure that it's just going to validate my feelings even more. But say there's 3 very persuasive articles or comments, and they do come through, would that ever make me think twice, or anybody else think twice about their stance on vaccinating or not vaccinating? Here is slide number 14. Sorry, no, it is not. I'm sorry, yes, it is slide number 14. And this is my favorite research question. My favorite research question out of the 3 that I chose, my most favorite is this one, and it was, how will a 24-hour digital detox influence the psychological needs for autonomy, competence, relatedness among parents, as predicted by the self-determination theory? I chose this question because I am a parent. I have 3 young children, and I'm always looking for ways that I can become a better parent, or more present, or what I can do better this day than I did the next day. I'm just always wanting to find ways that I can be better for them. Here is slide number 15, and that's my reflection on the process. And while creating this research, my research questions, I did heavily rely on Annex 1 and 2 for providing the topic, the interest, as well as finding the theory and model to research the question, mostly because I was very uncertain and not very confident about the process and what was expected on this lab, as well as connecting the two. But once I started reading them and researching, it got a lot more easier to know what was expected and get a flow on how to do this research, or how to even get the thought process going. I just began to understand more and more. I did use ChatGPT and Google to help me understand, like, terminology from some of the theories and models, as well as summarizing the theories. That was super, super, super helpful. And I also did use it to help me form some research question and ideas, or like a roundabout way of, would this make sense, or how would I plug this into this question. I did use it in that way. I really did enjoy this lab once I found a rhythm, and I'm excited to share it with you and see everyone else's. So thank you for your time, and good luck, everyone.